Well, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Joanne and I'm glad that you are here with me tonight. This is the second live today. Oh no, sorry, Terry. It's the second live I did today because the first live I did this morning was all about the fact that there's been settlement in the Friendly Jordies bruz matter, but Google has not settled. We want to talk about tonight. So we want to go over the Friendly Jordies. There's been some Twitter action today. I found out that Porter, Lamming, and Van Olsen have teamed up to sue somebody for defamation. Yes, that has come up, and so I want to look at that. I don't have the court documents. I've only got the Twitter stuff. Which I think they're suing a professor, Professor Gemma Carey. So I will read the lawyer's statements. Yes. Want to look at Katie Joy. I'm not going to show you all of her live. You got to feed the cats or to cook. Okay, well, that's fine. Can't show you all of her live. I will show you bits of it because her live today was to put it bluntly, it was vile and disgusting. And that's my opinion, but I wasn't the only one. And we want to try and put closure onto the Cleo Smith matter. I know Cleo's parents have come out and made a statement. They're asking for privacy, but that investigation is still going on. As it has been stated that there has been somebody charged and they are now trying to piece together how it happened and what happened. So, and the other thing is that they've actually moved into Perth. They've actually flown into Perth. So for whatever reason, he's been moved to Perth. So glad you don't have to go feed Bobby. I reckon Bobby would be a bit feisty, hey? So I have to say I nearly missed the court case this morning. I woke up at 9:30 and I'm laying in bed and I'm going, I'm sure there's something I've got to do today. And at 9:35 I went, oh, logged on. So, I mean, that is dedication, I have to tell you. I hope you all appreciate the dedication. So, yes. So there's a whole pile of stuff that's happened. He's been taken to a maximum security prison, and probably, and let's be honest, he's probably going to be safer there than what he would be if he was in Carnarvon, to be honest. Because I have no doubt that he would have a big black mark on his back. So let's start with, we're just going to look at our Friendly Jordies. We're going to look at his Twitter account. Oh, hello, Rob. You're from New Zealand with an unhealthy interest in New South Wales politics. Welcome, Rob. I also have a very unhealthy fixation on New South Wales politics, but I'm Victorian. So let's look at the statements today, and so this was, and I think, in all honesty, this was the best outcome because Parliament, unless he could have gotten parliamentary privilege, the odds were stacked against Jordan. In all honesty, I mean, as much as I wanted him to, take him on, parliamentary privilege was going to be an issue. And while bruz is protected, although, has anyone seen his new? Did you see his new video today? It's interesting that in this he's talked about bruz in it. We'll have a look at that as well. So this was the statement that came out. So John Barilaro ends defamation case. John Barilaro, the former New South Wales Deputy Premier, has discontinued his defamation claim against Jordan Shanks, aka Friendly Jordies. Xenophon Davies' partner Mark Davies said, "Our client will not be paying a cent in damages to Mr. Barilaro. Not one video will be taken down." On the 5th of November 2021, the federal court made orders to the effect that, save for the costs ordered on the 13th of August, the parliamentary privilege issue, and the 31st of August 2021, the jury issue, the proceeding as against the first respondent be discontinued with no costs order. I wish I'd bought one now, the Fox. Davis said Mr. Shanks was denied the defence of truth because of the parliamentary privilege enjoyed by Mr. Barilaro. Under the circumstances, we are more than satisfied that the action has been withdrawn. The court heard a statement made on behalf of Mr. Shanks by Dr. Matt Collins QC, in which he said freedom of expression for political communication is important, but added that Mr. Shanks accepted that some of the videos he posted were offensive to Mr. Barilaro and apologised to him for that hurt. Mr. Shanks will cease selling merchandise featuring Mr. Barilaro upon his retirement from politics. Friendly Jordies producer Christo Lanka continues to face criminal prosecution, with the trial anticipated to commence in May 2022. Davis said, "We've been inspired by the tremendous support for Jordan, which has enabled him to survive this civil suit. But this fight is not over. Christo is still facing the police and the courts. The two cases go to the heart of citizens' rights to criticise, scrutinise, and satirise our political leaders." All right. So that was that one. So then we have, that was the lawyers. So he's posted here, how is Christo meant to move on with his life? So this is, remember, we looked at Bruz's statement. This was Bruz's statement. "I am pleased that my defamation claims against Jordan Shanks have settled. I'm grateful for and accept Mr. Shanks' apology to me and trust that we can now each move on with our lives. Regrettably, my defamation claims against Google have not settled and will be determined by the federal court in March next year." So Bruz is talking about moving on with his life. Well, Christo can't until that's done. And then he did another one. And then he's shared some of the so Bridge, who's agreeing, says must be a relief for Shanks, but at such a cost. More evidence that defamation laws are designed for those with wealth and privilege to retain wealth and privilege. Now, what is really ironic is that if you remember, Bruz's lawyer was actually stating that it was Shanks that had the wealth and the privilege because he crowdfunded his stuff. So Xenophon Davis then said, "Barilaro versus Shanks, clarifying some media accounts of the settlement. No damages are being paid whatsoever. We are properly paying the costs for the applications we made and lost on the parliamentary privilege and a jury, capped at 100K. No other legal costs are being paid to B." So they're not paying anything to Bruz. Then this one was, "Not one video will be taken down. The man behind YouTube channel Friendly Jordies says he will not pay any damages to John Barilaro after the former New South Wales Deputy Premier settled the defamation case." Now, my own little bit of speculation here, is, oh, where's my camera gone? Oops, I've lost my video. Where is it? Here we go. Have we got it? Oh! My little bit of speculation is that Bruz has seen what Shanks has got to reveal in court, and he probably doesn't want it to get out. That's my theory. That's my little bit of a theory. Because if you looked at who had been subpoenaed, there was probably going to be some dirt come out. So it was probably in Bruz's interest to try and get it kept quiet. So I say, just my opinion. I have no facts or evidence to put that in there. That's just... But isn't it funny? Porter settles. Bruz settles. But Google isn't going down quietly. Google's going to fight it. Bruz X, you reckon Bruz X's? Ooh. Because there has to be some dirt that was going to come out. Has to be some dirt that was going to come out. Oh, thank you. Yes, I've got matching pants too. All right. So Helen Dalton actually, Helen Dalton has retweeted this one from Friendly Jordies, this one from Xenophon Davis. Looks like Australia's hat trick of own goal defamation cases have been completed today. So she states. So all the independent politicians, David Shoebridge has said, and Helen Dalton have all said that, have all come out in support of him. So it's Google can fight a while. Well, Google can fight for what? But the thing is, if they're held accountable for the Bruz videos, this is again my opinion, they could be held responsible for every video on the platform. Everybody could be suing Google for whatever's on the platform. So they need to defend themselves, in my opinion, and make sure that there is that barrier. Because can you imagine, I mean, if everybody then goes, well, we're not going to sue the person that made the video, we're going to sue Google because they hosted it. That would be a huge precedence. Oh, Shakes has just posted this. Thank you. If you're watching Friendly Jordies. $200 suit, $1,000. Damages paid to Barilaro, $0. Resale value of Bruz merch as it's banned, priceless. Oops, this video didn't go. That's funny. Oh, dear. Oh, I've just lost it all. Where did it go? Oh. No, it's not loading. Of course not. So, yes. Anyway, let me pull that back up again. We'll get that up again. Well, let me tell you, the person that has won is Shakes. He's won the court of public opinion. His subscribers have increased. He's got more notoriety. And don't forget, he got called out by Bruz for being the reason why he was resigning. So it says, hat $200, suit $1,000, damages paid to Bruz, $0, resale value of Bruz merch as it's banned, priceless. Well, that's the thing. And as you'll see shortly by somebody else that's been sued for defamation by politicians, she actually apologized to them and took down the material, and they're still suing her. At what point do we say enough is enough? At what point do we say you got your apology? So obviously saying I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that is not enough anymore. We're still going to take you to court and sue you. I think we seem to have a bit of a snowflake issue at the moment. So anyway, I came across this article. This is before we get into some of the other stuff. All right. So in Japan, inmates on death row are suing them for not giving them enough time to prepare for the execution. I don't know how much I don't know how much time that you would need. But it says 2 death row inmates in Japan are suing the country over how prisoners are notified only hours before their execution is carried out, demanding change and seeking compensation for the impact of the inhumane practice, their lawyer says. Capital punishment in Japan is conducted by hanging, and the practice of not informing inmates of the timing until shortly before execution has long been decried by the international human rights organizations for the stress it places on prisoners. To be honest with you, I'd rather not know. I'd be more stressed if I knew I had time. On Thursday, in what is to believe a first, 2 prisoners sentenced to death filed a suit in the district court in the western city of Osaka, saying the practice was illegal because it did not allow prisoners time to file an objection. They demanded the practice be changed and asked for 22 million yen, or 260,000 Australian dollars, in compensation. Death row prisoners live in fear every morning that day will be their last. It's extremely inhumane. Japan is really behind in the international community on this. The United States and Japan are the only industrialized democracies that still carry out the death penalty, and human rights groups such as Amnesty International have demanded change for decades. Mr. Dia said there is no law mandating that prisoners can only be told of their execution hours before it takes place, and the practice goes against Japan's criminal code. The central government has said this is meant to keep prisoners from suffering before their execution, but no explanation and a big problem. We really need to see how they respond to the suit. Overseas prisoners are given time to contemplate the end of their lives and mentally prepare. It's as if Japan is trying hard as possible not to let anyone know. There are currently 112 people sentenced to death in Japan. However, there's not been an execution carried out for almost 2 years. Public opinion polls show a vast majority of the population in favour of capital punishment, which is usually imposed in connection with murders. They said the lawyer said he hopes the lawsuit could spark discussion in Japan about the issue, although this is not the main goal. The system is badly mistaken, and we'd like the public to turn their eyes to the issue. So there you go. So 2 prisoners on death row are actually suing Japan because they don't have enough time to prepare. Should prisoners be given time to prepare? If we take out the whole capital punishment issue for the moment, as I said, I think I would be the type that would rather not know. What about you? Would you like to know? The only reason you would need to know is that you could put your affairs in order, but for the record, I'm not working tonight. It's really going to be really strange going to bed at night time. So what are your thoughts on that? Taylor Cleo says, I think you need to mentally prepare. But wouldn't being on death row be part of that? All right. I know, it's something to consider. I don't know. I think Indonesia, they don't tell you either. Anyway. So Cleo Smith. Look, I'm not a fan of it either, to be honest with you, Graham. But it's funny that they still do hanging. Hello, Osbel. Hello. We were just talking about your ex-MP and how he settled with Jordan and we reckon our theory is because Jordan's got some dirt on him. That's our theory. That's my theory. Cool. All right. So Cleo Smith's family has spoken for the first time. So the family of Cleo Smith has spoken for the first time. After she was rescued. In a short statement issued by police, Cleo's parents, Ellie Smith and Jake Glidden, said they wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of those involved in her rescue from a Carnarvon house in the early hours of Wednesday, 18 days after she went missing. In particular, we'd like to thank the WA police, all those involved in the initial search, the Carnarvon community, local businesses, and, of course, our family. We are humbled by the love and support that they have received, not only from our local community, but the whole of Western Australia and across the country. We are so thankful that our little girl is back in our arms and our family is whole again. As we try to get on with our lives, we ask that you respect our privacy. Now, I believe that there's been media camped outside her door. Your dad wants to know who his little miss is. I don't know, Osbel. I guess we'll find out in a few months. Cleo's disappearance from the Blowholes campsite sparked one of the biggest investigations in WA. So there was over 100 officers involved. Capital punishment. The fox. So he was found in a house 3 minutes drive from her family home. So the alleged abductor did not need to enter a plea. He was charged with one count of forcibly taking a child under the age of 16 and one charge, and he was transported to Perth today to maximum security prison. And I think that might be for his own benefit, for his own safety. The police are trying to track his movements. So he's been flown to Perth as police investigate his movements in the days before the 4-year-old was found inside a Carnarvon house. He was barefoot, wore a black shirt, and had his hair out. He was yet to enter a plea. Now, I believe he also threatened a journalist. So he was charged and faced court after he was taken to hospital twice while in custody. A charter flight left Carnarvon about 11:30 local time, with him on board, accompanied by 4 Special Operation Group correction officers. The flight landed in Perth about 1 p.m. before he was transported in a convoy of vehicles to a maximum security prison, where he will await his next court appearance on December 6. Family and neighbours have said this image appears on a social media account featuring pictures of children's dolls as well as information about a fake family. Police say the key focus of the investigation will be now tracking Mr. Kelly's movements in the days before Cleo was found inside a Housing Commission home in Carnarvon. Police have so far revealed little of what they know about what happened. So the police aren't talking at the moment. The man leading the investigation, Detective Superintendent Rod Wild, said police were not sure if Cleo had been in the home for all of the 18 days. So they haven't interviewed her yet. Before Cleo was found, police had called for people to supply CCTV footage from a variety of locations across the state, including bakeries and children's clothing stores. As part of this new stage of investigations, police are now asking for all CCTV footage people can provide across the town. We know now that we have knowledge of the suspect, I'm asking businesses and people within Carnarvon to provide to the investigative team any CCTV footage they may have between Friday the 15th and Tuesday the 2nd. That stretches the day before. Dash cam footage has also been released, purporting to show the moment Mr. Kelly was arrested. It was only shortly before officers forced their way into the Carnarvon home and found Cleo awake playing with toys. The grainy footage, which appears to have been captured within the minutes before midnight on Tuesday, shows a car pinned down between 2 other cars on the side of the road. It was a combination of police investigation that came to head hours after Mr. Kelly was identified as a suspect. Trying to gather information, things became a little clearer. We had identified this person was a person of interest, and they formulated a plan quickly. One of them was that the suspect that we were observing could be mobile and would leave the premises. In the terms of decisions, it wasn't that hard. So they cannot say why he left home. In a message to WA Police Force in an internal magazine, Commissioner Chris Dawson reiterated his pride for the agency's work in finding Cleo, calling that an example of the very best of humanity. Commissioner Dawson also gave some insight into the time he spent with Cleo and the family. Cleo was sitting on her mother's lap, backyard, chatting away with me, and she did not like my offer of swapping my black police boots for the brand new shiny shoes she was wearing. She fell asleep in her mother's arms. So the interesting thing is, in another article, the police have said that the police have come out and said that there is nothing. So she and Cleo's stepfather were subjected to online abuse from people accusing them of being involved in the disappearance. The police have actually denied that there has been involvement by the parents. They've also said that the online speculation was not very helpful. So that's why I'm being very careful I haven't named him. I haven't named the suspect. I just think we need to focus on what we know and what's been released, not speculation. But I have heard of some of that. So yes, so Cleo Smith. So I'm probably now not going to talk about Cleo again. Other than just to keep an eye on what's happening with the suspect. But Cleo now needs to be able to get on with her life and enjoy her life. So let's see what has caused a storm today. Right. So Grace Tame, she's actually the Australian of the Year. So this is what she wrote. Last Wednesday, Christian Porter, Andrew Laming, and Peter Van Olsing sent simultaneous defamation threats to author Gemma Carey. Gemma is disabled, an expectant mother, and also a survivor of child SA. You know where this is coming from. You know what Laming and Porter have been accused of. And then this is the picture of the email. Here, dear Professor Carey, she's a professor. And then the power imbalance between three of Australia's most powerful men and a disabled expectant mother who's a survivor of grooming and child SA is extreme. Gemma has previously spoken out about the alleged SH by Laming on a flight to Sydney. She had tweeted about all three men, published apologies to them following the legal threats. This coordinated attack clearly had a design, and I think that it was not just to silence one individual, but to have a wider deterrent effect on others contemplating speaking out. I see it as a form of systems abuse whereby legislation is weaponized to strategically silence those with less access to power and resources. If this type of behavior is allowed to continue, it would have the chilling effect of reversing the roles of victims and offenders, erasing the truth, and ultimately perpetuating the cycle of abuse. Australian defamation law is widely considered the worst in Western world and is badly in need of reform. It lends itself to exploitation by privileging the rights of plaintiffs and significantly hampered Australia's Me Too movement. It's painfully ironic that the very person who was in a position to lead a meaningful reform in this area at the time of Me Too unfolded and said himself that our defamation law was no longer fit to purpose, is now capitalizing on the very same law. The abuse of defamation law doesn't just shut down debate, it actively empowers, emboldens offenders and their supporters to feel entitled to instill fear in the already vulnerable. On several occasions, serial pedophile who abused me tried to use defamation laws and other legal avenues to silence critics, not only in relation to the crimes against me, but also in defense of racist remarks. It's becoming a commonplace pattern of behavior within our culture of double standards that reflect deep-seated entitlement, inability to take responsibility for wrongdoing, and fragile egos. I applaud and fully support the brave men and women who are standing up in the face of these threats and calling for change. If possible, please donate to help Gemma. So she started up a GoFundMe. It says, so really, Christian Porter can sue anyone he wants to. He knows he doesn't have to pay low legal costs, just gets another secret donation. So this is what she said. So for everybody who has offered to support, please read Gemma's thread. So Gemma Tame set up a thread. This account is being trolled relentlessly. I am a CSA survivor, advocate, and memorist. I'm a woman professing my 30s. These are threatening things to men hiding behind false names and photos. They can't shame me. So she's on the 24th of October, 2021. I commented on a photograph of Christian Porter when he was at university with others, and that comment was completely inappropriate and highly offensive. I should never have published it. It has now been deleted. I unconditionally withdraw my comment and apologize to Mr. Porter for the hurt caused to him by my conduct. She's made a public apology. Why are they suing her for defamation? On October 24, 2021, I commented on a photograph of Peter Van Alstyne when he was at university with others, and that comment was completely inappropriate and highly offensive, and I should never have published it. It has now been deleted, and I unconditionally withdraw my comment and apologize to Mr. Van Alstyne for the hurt caused to him and his wife by my conduct. It's interesting that in Parliament, they can say whatever they like, and then they say, I withdraw. They can withdraw the comment, and all's forgiven. Hey, isn't it funny? Earlier in 2021, I published 2 tweets about Andrew Laming MP. I accept the claims made by Mr. Laming in those tweets were false and defamatory. I conditionally withdraw those claims and apologise to Andrew Laming for the hurt and offence caused to him by my... I know, Cal, hey? So... I think so too. I think the Fox, if they want to sue for defamation, they have to give up parliamentary privilege. Now, so this is Independent. So Twitter fights against Porter, Van Alstyne, and Laming's defamation threats. He hasn't learnt. So on October 27, Professor Gemma Carey received 3 defamation concern notices in a single email. The email was sent by Rebecca Giles' law firm company on behalf of Christian Porter, his close friend, Peter Van Alstyne. Now we know why Peter Van Alstyne is very quiet about Porter, and disendorsed Liberal National MP Andrew Laming. The 3 notices were served simultaneously in one email, which could suggest this legal action was discussed between Porter, Van Alstyne, and Laming, who together decided to flex, combine, and abuse their power imbalance over Professor Carey. For 2 federal politicians and a journalist with a national platform to join forces and threaten legal action against the survivor of Child SA in the current political climate, much of which involves Porter and Laming, is so outrageously brazen that it matches the disgusting audacity of Porter announcing legal action against Louise Milligan on the day of the March for Justice. Rebecca Giles is the same lawyer Christian Porter used when he attempted to sue Louise Milligan and the ABC. And it would seem that legal action against just one woman in 2021 wasn't enough for the former Attorney General. Giles' boutique law firm, Company Giles, specialises in reputational risk, complex commercial disputes, and sensitivities. That sounds perfect for Porter and Laming, given what they have been previously accused of. However, the clear reputational risk of defamation action, utilising expensive lawyers to flex one's privilege and power against an expectant mother and the survivor of Child SA, appears to have been an acceptable risk to the litigious trio. Clearly, this isn't about reputation or defamation. It's about power, control, and silence. By taking legal action and requiring Professor Carey to publicly apologise, the litigious trio have attracted more public attention and criticism than the now deleted Twitter that would have initially received. This appears to be a calculated risk, suffering from public backlash from abusing their power and privilege against Professor Carey. The litigious trio are surely hoping that others will think twice before criticising them in the public forum. Nevertheless, as far as defamation and protecting one's reputation goes, what's there left to protect with these three? Christian Porter has been accused of R that wasn't properly investigated, refused to stand down, avoided a parliamentary inquiry, and used secret donors to fund his legal action against Milligan and the ABC. Peter Van Alsten defended his friend Porter on Insiders with an offensive explanation and wrote an article in The Australian suggesting that Porter's accuser might have imagined the R while stating the vicious, often hysterical and emotional public sham trial of Porter ignores why we have a legal system. Andrew Laming has withdrawn an apology from 2 Brisbane women whom he abused online, has previously backflipped on his agreement to quit politics, which has resulted in his party blocking him from contesting pre-selection. Again, reputation-wise, what do you think these three have left to protect? As stated, this legal action is about power and control, not defamation or reputation. Fortunately, Twitter has had enough of the privileged consequence avoiding oversensitive power-abusing politicians and journalists. Thanks to the many tweets of Independent Australia columnist Dr. Jennifer Wilson, the legal threats made by the litigious trio have become common knowledge among the Ozpile cohort of the Twitter sphere. On Wednesday, the 3rd of November, a GoFundMe fundraiser was started by independent journalist and Let Her Speak campaign creator Nina Funnell in order to raise money for Professor Kerry and others facing defamation threats from Porter, Van Alsten and Laming. The fundraiser has been shared widely on Twitter and has raised $145,000. The GoFundMe was most notably shared by Australian of the Year Grace Tame, whose huge platform and following has naturally contributed significantly to the fundraising efforts. Tame compiled an excellent thread on the situation, expertly explaining the power imbalance and abuse of defamation law. Grace Tame has provided outstanding advocacy, analysis, education, and strong leadership to Australia via her tweets, articles, and media appearances during this year of outrageous sexism, power, and privilege. In her Twitter thread, Tame rightly points out that Christian Porter is exploiting defamation laws he previously claimed required reform in 2019. However, since his legal action against the ABC, he conveniently changed his tune. And let me tell you, he could have changed the law when he was the AG, but he didn't. Whilst the women of Australia shouldn't have to put up with this government's neglect or defamation threats from politicians, it is heartening to know that the public has each other's back when it comes to defending ourselves from the political elite. With the next election being in 2022, Australia still has some time to wait before ridding itself of politicians such as Porter and Laming. As for Peter Van Alsten, we can't vote him out, so you'll just have to ignore him. There you go. As I said, that's the Independent Australia. So they're not pulling any punches there. They're just telling it as it is. Now, the other interesting thing, the Brittney Higgins accuser has also facing trial. Let me just pull that up. There's also going to be stand trial. So let's have a look. So man committed to stand trial for the alleged of Brittney Higgins. So he's pleaded not guilty to the charge of yes. So in the ACT, it's charged of sexual intercourse without consent. The man accused of Brittney Higgins in a federal minister's office has been committed to stand trial in Canberra. He pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors and agreed to skip committal proceedings and opted for an expedited path to an ACT Supreme Court trial. He appeared by phone only in the ACT's Magistrates Court on Friday. Hello, Bruce speaking, he told the magistrate Robert Cook, who then proceeded to commit the 26-year-old to trial. His case is due in the Territory Supreme Court on November 18. Higgins has alleged publicly she was asked by her colleagues in the Parliament office of then Defence Minister Linda Reynolds in the early hours of March 23, 2019. She first reported her alleged essay to Reynolds' Chief of Staff and spoke subsequently to the Federal Police in Parliament. So there you go. So he's going to stand trial. So that's good. That's good news. So while we're on that topic, so was there anything else that we needed to talk about before I get on to that? But what gives politicians the right? What gives politicians the right to sue people because they don't like what they've been said, what they don't like what's said? And Ruston lying to the Senate inquiry. Oh, really? What did she do? What was it? Because they're special. Oh, but they shouldn't be special, though. That's the whole point. They shouldn't be special at all. Ah, interesting. Oh, is she the Minister for Women's Safety? I really wish that politicians would actually stop thinking that they can use taxpayers' money to help them. I think that the sooner that they realize that money is not theirs, the better. Oh, she's also the Minister for Families and Social Services. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's funny how people change when they get power. Have you noticed I haven't changed? I haven't changed a bit. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh. Oh, by the way, Peter Van Alstyne also says, are you in on this too? Someone says, are you in on this too? I'm not in on anything. Grace is factually wrong again. I was defamed, so I went to my lawyer and demanded apology. It's funny that him and Porter and Laming all had the same lawyer, which I got. I did not coordinate that in any way, shape, or form. The fact the person defamed my wife and I also defamed others has nothing to do with me. So the cashless debit card is they want to put welfare recipients on a card where 80% of their income is like a debit card. So they have 20% going to their bank account, 80% of their social security goes onto a card, but you can only use the card in certain places, and it's privatized. And that's what the government wants to do with people on welfare. And it's a flawed system because you actually have to shop at certain shops. And so guess what they do? They inflate the prices because they know that the people can only shop there. Happens a lot in the remote areas as well. So if you go to a remote area, if you've got one of those cards, you can expect to pay $5 or $6 for some milk. And they know that they can charge it because they can't go anywhere else. It's actually a rule, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's a debit card. You can't get cash on it. You can't, I understand the no gambling, alcohol and cigarettes. I understand that part of it. But everything else is flawed. It also takes away control from the government. The government has no control over how it's managed or run. If there is problems with the card, the private company has to sort that out. The government has no power to do anything about it. Let's look at this. And the word on the street is that if the government gets re-elected, they're going to put everybody, including all the old age pensioners, did you know that the company running the cashless debit card, they actually claimed $2 million in $2 million in JobKeeper? So for those of you that are, let's just have a look what this is the official page about the cashless debit card. We'll just hang on. So the card provides an overview of, so here it is. So the Australian government is considering the best possible way to support people's families, communities where the highest level of welfare dependence coexist. Yeah. So it says the object of the cashless debit card is to ensure that welfare payments are spent in responsible and meaningful ways and reduce high levels of social harm. The other issue is totally clueless, is that you can't use it to pay your rent. You can't pay your rent using the cashless debit card. So if you think that you only, I don't know how you're supposed to pay your rent with only 20% of your money. So the debit card cashless debit card looks like, operates like a bank card. It cannot be used to buy alcohol or gambling products, some gift cards, or to withdraw cash. You'll receive an interest-bearing fee-free account, which is where a portion of your income support will be going to. You can use internet banking and make contact payments through the card. On the 17th of December 2020, it received royal assent, so it extended for another 2-year trial in the East Kimberley, Sir Junior Goldfields, Bundaberg and Harvey Bay until 31st December 2022. So it's in its trial. I know they charge fees, but this is what they're saying. Which idiot thought this up? So in the Sir Junior region, the Goldfield regions and the East Kimberley region, the program applies to all people who receive a working aged welfare payment. People receiving the age pension may volunteer. In Bundaberg, Harvey Bay, the program applies to people aged 35 and under who receive job seeker, youth allowance, parenting payment, single and partnered. People over 35 years of age or receiving the age pension may volunteer to participate. So in the Cape York region of Queensland, it applies to people who the Family Responsibilities Commission have been referred to. In the Northern Territory, the program applies to income management participants who have chosen to transition to the debit card. So it says, how does it work? So it does not change the amount people receive. Bet you it's Serco, right? In Ceduna, Goldfields, East Kimberley, Bundaberg, Hervey Bay, participants on the cashless debit card receive 20% of their welfare payment in their regular card and 80% goes into the debit card. So you get 20% that you can take out, 80% goes into your cards. So in the Northern Territory, those who transition from income management to cashless debit card will receive the same split they received on the income management. So it's a 50-50. Now, those that are being referred under the child protection measure is a 70% on the card and 30% in their bank account. So this is what the card looks like. It says you can shop online, you can buy groceries. Well, it says you can pay bills and rent, but you can't. The problem that I have with the card is that, as I said, Centrelink puts the money there, but if you want to set up direct debits and stuff, you have to actually deal with Indu. You can't actually do that through Services Australia, which interestingly enough, those that are income managed, they can ring up income management and say, I need to pay these bills, and Centrelink can sort out the bills being paid. So it restricts, yes. So that is the cashless debit card. But here it goes. This is company running the cashless debit card scheme in Australia claimed $2 million in JobKeeper before rising revenue. Payment firm Indu says we intend to retain the JobKeeper payments on the basis that Indu met the qualifying criteria. So the company contracted by the federal government to run the controversial cashless debit card claimed $2 million in JobKeeper payments before increasing its revenues during the pandemic. How? Payments firm Indu, which was handed $26 million 2-year extension to its contract to keep running the scheme late last year, received $2.1 million in JobKeeper wage subsidies that comprised of $632,700 in June 2020 and $1.49 million between July and September, according to its annual report. The company revenue increased in 2019-2020 and 2020-2021, leading to a profit of $2.1 million and $2.5 million, the report shows. Well, then, you know what, Indu? You can pay back your $2.1 million. You can pay back your $2 million. Under the JobKeeper program, businesses were required to estimate whether their turnover would decrease by 30 to 50% compared to the previous year, dependent on their size. There was no suggestion Indu did not qualify for the payments under the rules of the scheme. But if they've made a profit, they should have to pay it back, in my opinion. Controversially, the government elected not to include a clawback provision to recoup money from those companies that outperformed expectations. Stupid government. They should have. And it's funny because everybody, they put in a clawback. They've put in a clawback for anybody on that got the COVID payments. People are having to pay back their COVID payments because they were overpaid or something, but then the big companies get away with it. Labor's Assistant Treasury spokesman, Andrew Lee, who has called for greater accountability for firms that claimed the subsidy, said Indu should voluntarily pay the money back. I don't know who the chairman of Indu is. Probably some liberal guy, right? Indu makes tens of millions of dollars running the cashless debit card for the Morrison government. Now it turns out they got $2 million in JobKeeper, despite increasing revenues during the pandemic. Parliamentary Budget Office analysis first reported by the ABC on Tuesday found the Morrison government paid out a total of $38 billion in JobKeeper to businesses that did not suffer sustained downturn during the pandemic. Several Australian companies have faced public pressure to pay back the JobKeeper funds. and some have, but the government has resisted calls to compel them. They should compel them. Here you go. See, this is the irony. At the same time, the government has sought to claw back about $50 million from 16,000 welfare recipients who were overpaid due to an overlap with JobKeeper payments. So the poor people have to pay, but the big companies don't. This is disgraceful. A spokesperson for Indu said the government met the JobKeeper criteria by estimating their GST had fallen or would likely to fall by 30% or more. Because they only had to estimate. They only had to guesstimate. Of course, everyone was going to say they're going to have a downturn. The money was used to preserve employment for Indu staff and allowed Indu to support hardship applications from our customers impacted by the pandemic. Accordingly, we intend to retain JobKeeper. Payments on the basis that Indu met the qualifying criteria. The payments were accessed for legitimate reasons and used by Indu for the purpose it was intended. The spokesman said the company's modest profit included its JobKeeper payments. As outlined in our latest annual report, the government measures supported consumer confidence, which assisted payment volumes and revenue to progressively recover as lockdown lifted. Running the cashless debit card is only one part of the company's operations, which include other banking services, fraud mitigation, and other payment products. Lee's call for Indu to pay the wage subsidy back comes amid a political fight over the future of the cashless debit card. The scheme aims to reduce social harm such as gambling, alcohol, and drug abuse by quarantining 80% of a person's payments onto a card that can't withdraw cash or be used to buy items banned under the program. Given 42% of the participants are Indigenous, the government's card scheme has been branded racist, and card holders have told Guardian Australia it causes stigma. It has led to misrental payments and limited their ability to access cheaper goods online or in a cash economy. That's the problem. They have to pay more. A Senate inquiry previously heard claims one mother could not buy a children's book from a bookstore because the shop also sold books on distilling alcohol, while a nursing student is said to have been stopped from buying a stethoscope and university books from the med shop. The Senate submission claimed that Indu staff said she could not buy those things as she may be trying to buy hand sanitizer to drink. What? And that's Labor MP Julian Hill told Parliament last month one woman was forced to beg Indu for permission to buy a bra that fitted her from a shop that wasn't on the approved list and forced to send in photos. The government insists that such claims are handled by Services Australia, not Indu. No, they're not. They're handled by Indu. Services Australia has no ability to be able to approve or unapprove payments. Hill has introduced a private menus bill to scrap the scheme once it expires at the end of next year and is among a number of backbench Labor MPs claiming the government plans to place aged pensioners on the card. Anne Ruston, the Social Services Minister, has described the claim as a lie and repeatedly ruled out plans to expand the card to aged pensioners. The 24 aged pensioners currently on the card have volunteered or have been placed on the scheme by the Cape York's Family Responsibilities Commission. While the Cape York site is overseen by the Commission, the government runs trials in Bundaberg, Hervey Bay in Queensland, the Goldfields, East Kimberley in West Australia, Sydney in South Australia, and operates in the Northern Territory. Labor argues the card is an example of the privatisation of the welfare system and has long been opposed by the Greens, welfare groups, and grassroots campaigners. Indu's total contract with the government, dating back to 2015, is worth $70 million, including a $26 million two-year extension when the government won a Senate vote in December, keeping the scheme going. One major study into the card's effects in Ceduna found it had no substantial impact, while a government-commissioned independent report was mostly inconclusive on whether the card had led to a reduction in social harms. Last month, the government announced participants in Northern Territory would be able to select from the traditional credit union as well as Indu as their card issuer. So there you go. That is the Australia's cashless debit card. It is a nasty scheme. As somebody that worked for Services Australia, my heart would break when people on the debit the cashless debit card would ring up because you couldn't do anything for them. So anyway, all right. So I'm going to show you a few clips of Katie Joy because, as I said, it was not very nice. She's essentially implied that people are groomed and so it was awful, totally clueless. I could only watch half of it. I had to switch it off. So we're going to watch the end of it. She says that she's probably going to go to the trial. So she's talking about the Josh Duggar trial. So fortunately, Llama Girl, it was amazing, puts trigger warnings up. Trigger warning. KJ talks about who will testify, educates us about federal court. She says there's probably going to be minor kids testifying too. Now, I know that in Australia, for these matters, the court's closed. So she talks about SA, serious trigger warning. Llama Girl says, serious trigger warning. She explains what and how digital penetration is. It brought me to tears. She should be banned from all SM. So then she's described Josh Duggar. So she just went into huge detail. So anyway, it was pretty bad. So I'm going to try and see if the fox. All right. So yeah, so it was pretty bad. So let's start with this one. Hopefully, this. So if you need to go, I understand. Oh.
I don't know who's going to have to testify in terms of like the girls. I'm not sure, but the child that was digitally raped will probably be called if this goes to trial.
What?
I would rather not identify who that is because that child was a minor, so I'd rather not say. I don't know.
Does she know who it is?
They don't want, the court's made a point of not saying who it is, so I feel like it's probably me. Should respect the fact that the court hasn't said that.
Well, how do you know? Or are you speculating that you know?
I think it's like so. I think what you need to remember is victims' identities should be kept protected. Victims should not be outed, and victims should not be disclosed.
And yet you were going to do it.
So I'm not going to say the names of who or what or where. And this is exactly why I haven't said anything about his kids or any other children around him, because I just don't want to identify people.
Daisy says no, none of these children. There's absolutely no need for them to. And you assume the police found these. Well, the other thing is, as I said, usually the court cases are closed, so the public, the media, nobody will know what's actually said, other than the people that have to be there. So she won't know.
The jurors will see the videos. The jurors will see the images, and the jurors will also be offered counseling after this. So in cases that deal with this kind of content, it is so traumatic.
Again, I don't know whether they will. I would only imagine that they'd only need to watch part of it, wouldn't they? They wouldn't have to sit there and watch the whole thing, would they? it just.
It is so traumatic to see.
Oh, really? They've been around for a while. Okay, so this one.
In the chat, which is so inappropriate.
So no one should. She says no one should speculate yet. She's the one that insinuated she knows who the victims are. So she's saying she knows who's.
Like, why are you trying to name victims in a chat if you don't even know if they're victims? No, it's really hard to get out of watching, and you have to see the content of what he's doing, and you're offered therapy afterwards because it's so traumatic.
Hey, Will. Well, Daisy, anyone that tries to argue with her will get into trouble.
And being that Josie has never been publicly identified as a victim, being that his children have never been publicly identified as victims, being that Emily has never been identified as a victim, I choose not to speculate, because if you attach victimhood to a child and you're wrong, then you made them a victim when they're not. And you just don't want to place that, whether it's the truth or not. It's not your story to tell. It's not my story to tell.
But yet you're telling it. Yet she's telling it. Quite often, but don't they? Sometimes they do pre-recorded videos, don't they, of victims? I can't see why there's no charges for going to being this from the bot. Well, that's right. That's the other thing, totally clueless. I don't know why or how that would happen because it was a video. Yeah, I don't know.
They use Jane Doe. They'll use Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2. Yes, the jury will see what he downloaded. They'll see the videos. They'll see the pictures. They'll see everything.
Has Emily talked about what will be seen? Because I'd much rather believe what Emily's would say about it. But why is she talking like this though? Like,
so will the court reporters, so will the attorneys.
now let me tell you, in the Christian Porter case, with the R allegations, okay, the junior lawyers had to leave. The court was closed. The junior lawyers had to leave. The only people that knew the full extent of the allegations was the judge, the court reporter, and the two senior counsels. That there was only 4 people that knew the full extent. Nobody else was allowed to know. And I would imagine the court would be closed and it would be only need to know when they discussed it. Because we're talking about, at the end of the day, we're talking about children. And they need to be protected. And we don't need people like this talking about it.
The years of the abuse, according to the court, is 2002 to 2003.
Okay. Then she says here, these cases literally never go to trial. Apparently.
I know those jurors should not be subjected to this. That's why these cases never go to trial. Literally, child pornography cases never go to trial. Literally never, because of how graphic the content is, and I've talked to people that are like in the court system that are like experts in this who have told me that the reason why these cases never go to trial is because plea deals are so much better for the perpetrator than when they go to trial. So when they get a plea deal, they'll get like a solid 10 years maybe. That's it. But if they go to trial and then the jurors see what they downloaded and the judge sees what they downloaded, that changes the jurors to their core. So Josh's attorneys worrying about testimony from his sisters, influencing him to be telling him that's going to make him guilty. Nothing is going to make him guilty more than when the jurors see what he downloaded and they can put him in that chair. That's what's going to make him convicted, when they see what was found on his computer.
I'd imagine the grand jury, when they choose to indict him, they would see it all, but I don't know that the jurors would see all of it. As I said, I don't know, because I don't know how the system works. I just know in Australia that they close a lot of it off because, as I said, they did that for the Porter case as well. They just did not want, and they did that with Gladys in the ICA hearing. When it got to their personal relationship and the extent of it, it was all closed as well. So
I need this distraction of them saying like, oh, they can't hear about this. It's going to make them feel like he's the only one that could do this.
Now, she also implied earlier, which I won't show you, that more than one Duggar boy is that there's probably another Josh Duggar in the family. Yes, she is assuming that there's more than one that's the same, and then blames it on Jim Bob's upbringing. So
I don't know. Sentencing might not happen right away, but once he's convicted, he's remanded. So if he's convicted, bond is revoked immediately. So the trial is scheduled to go from like November 30th to December 3rd, so like a week long. I don't have gossip at all about Anna. I don't know if she had the baby. Honestly, like none of that really concerns me right now.
really, because you're not concerned whether she's had the baby.
If I'm being fair, that literally doesn't concern me right now.
She's got the stress of all of this happening. I know from personal experience.
I'm not worried if Anna had the baby. I'm not concerned about what she's going to do after the trial. I'm just not thinking about it yet because I'm like not there.
All right, so now she's going to talk about the fact she's.
I don't know. Because there's like a couple people that want to meet me that I really want to meet. That you might be really excited to know, but I'm not going to tell you who until later down the line. But kind of excited that I might get to meet a couple people that have some things to tell me and just. The trial is open to the public, yes, and if I go, I won't be able to do the same kind of videos that I'm doing normally, because I won't be able to bring my computer. So if I go, you're gonna get like live streams from my phone, just so you know. I'll probably have notes that I'll scribble on during the hearing, but I won't be able to do like edited content because I just won't have the equipment with me because I'll be flying. And yeah.
Does she not have a laptop? Because I use a laptop. Or my phone.
This is my phone, yes. But this is on Instagram. My camera is actually better, not on Instagram. For some reason, my Instagram camera just doesn't look as good. I have a laptop, but have you ever tried to stream on a laptop? It doesn't work very well. It overheats your laptop. Streaming is so hard on laptop.
Wow. Streaming is so hard on laptop. I'm streaming on a laptop. Hello, Joseph DeSerin. There's a blast from the past I haven't seen for a while. Hello. Give me a shout out. There you go. I've given you a shout out. Troll in the... No, not a troll. Somebody I haven't seen or spoken to for a very long time. Wow.
No, this trial will not be on Zoom. It will not be on video. I don't know why it's foggy. I was just saying that. I don't know why it's foggy.
Does she need to clean the lens on her camera? I just love it how she manages to insult all those people that do their videos on their phones and videos on their. I'm using a laptop. I have a laptop. I have a MacBook. So yes, I'm using. All right. So this one. What's this one? Right now she's going to mess around with some filters. I can't make it any louder either.
These are just like funny filters here. Oh, that doesn't even look like me. Oh my gosh. Whoa. That is not me. Whoa. Huh. They're not dirty. I just looked at the camera and they're not dirty. But how is my camera here doing this here? How does that work? I have like the camera lens. This filter, honestly, all it does is make me have tanner skin. That's it. When I tell you that the camera is clean, you don't understand. The camera is clean. It could be just Instagram. It's probably Instagram. I have the iPhone 11.
All right. So now her hair looks good. I won't be on much longer. I'll
Guys, you know what bothers me is my hair looks so good when I'm not on camera, and then I get on camera and it's like you guys can't see it, and then all I see when I'm on camera is like the few hairs here, and then I feel like it looks terrible. But like if you could actually see it, it looks really
That's where I'm
good.
always.
Okay, but this is not how I normally look, so I don't know. Anyways.
That's
So,
where I'm always.
um, guys, it's like fine. Okay, let's just chill out. Can we just chill out about the lighting and just chill? Please? Let's just chill. Let's chill. Anyways,
Sky. I like Sky.
my shirt says Pink Floyd. Can we not call this tea? I know that, like, on my channel I have a little tea thing on my intro. Can we not call what I'm talking about tonight tea?
See, you're totally clueless.
This is not tea. When I feel like we talk tea, we're talking about, like, the gossip of, like, Johnny likes Sarah. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my gosh, did they kiss? Are they holding hands? Did they have sex? Like, that's the tea. It's not tea when we're talking about, like, child abuse, child sexual abuse. It's not tea.
I swear she does this. I swear she does this deliberately because she knows that everyone's going to play it on their YouTube channel, and she knows that if she says all those words on her Instagram and they play it on the YouTube, that people's channels get demonetized. I don't care, to be honest with you, but I swear it's all deliberate because she wouldn't speak like this on her. She wouldn't speak like this on her YouTube. Okay, so she says she doesn't want people to DM her. I've got no intent. I think I'm blocked anyway.
Not true, Amanda. That is not true. Can I also ask you guys a favor? A huge favor, an amazing favor. Please don't send me DMs to ask me questions about the stories I'm covering. Like, I don't have inside information that I'm going to give one person. And I don't have time to answer questions about every single story. So I would encourage you to use the comments feature. And most of the people will be able to answer for you. Generally, someone will see your question and someone will answer. But if you're going to go into my DMs and expect secrets and tea from me, I'm not going to give it out to anyone. I just put it out on my Instagram or I make the videos. Privately, I don't share details. And DMs just trying to clarify story highlights and lines. I would use the comments feature. It will give you an answer faster, and I don't respond to DMs. So if you really have a question, make sure that you use the comments, and there's lots and lots of people that will respond to you. Just being clear, I don't really respond to DMs.
I bet if they had gossed, you would.
A lot of people send me messages, and they literally want like me to give them the tea or whatever, or the scoop. And it's like, ask a question in the chat. There's no need. You're going to be sorely disappointed if you send a message to me because it's not going to get a response. And then you're going to get upset with me because I don't respond. I really don't respond. I really rarely respond to DMs. Like,
all right.
If you see something, that's different. Like if you say, oh, like a couple days ago when Christine Brown, posted that thing on Instagram, I had like 40 messages of like, Christine Brown, that's fine. Sometimes you guys alert me to things before I ever see it. So that's fine. If you're sending me that kind of stuff, I will never complain. Like y'all are perfect and great for that. Like I have a subscriber that's always checking the Zillow records to see if their property is sold. She's got it like set to alerts or something, and she's like always trying to see
Okay, so if you're giving her information, you can contact her, but otherwise she doesn't want to hear from you. Is that correct? That's my interpretation of it. That's my interpretation of what she just said.
Like one-on-one questions, no. I have zero interest in entertaining drama. So I'd rather not discuss that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And honestly, 3+P, you should probably know better than to bring that up.
That person's just been kicked out.
Why do you think I would care about stuff that's happening online when I'm working? It's so silly. Why would I care about what drama is happening online? They do offer counseling to the jurors, yes. I'm sorry, Mike, if you went through that. Okay, so, I can't imagine having to watch safety construction. I think I would vomit.
Okay, there you go. All right, now she's going to talk about press passes.
But press don't have special privileges, so just so you know, like press don't get special places and they don't get special access to press. I am media, yes I am. I'm an independent blogger, yes.
There you go. You've heard it from her. She's media. She's an independent blogger. Hello, Frank. Haven't seen you for ages. Cool. How are you? So did everyone just say that? She's just said that she's media. You know what? I didn't even, when I went to when I sat in the case this morning, Bruz and Shanks, the case management hearing, I went in as myself. All the media actually had media, and then like it was media ABC, media Guardian, media. So
you know, like press don't get special places and they don't get special access to press. I am media, yes I am. I'm an independent blogger, yes I am press.
the media.
Oh, yeah. No. You don't need a press pass for trial. Did you guys know there's no such thing as press passes?
Really? Oh, I can't hear her. Is it my computer? Yeah, I've got it up as loud as I can go. I can't make it any louder. I've got to get OBS. I've got to work out how to use OBS. Apparently, that should solve my problem. Don't worry, short order cook. You're not missing much. Apparently, there's no such thing as press passes. She's saying. So.
You can make your own. You can make your own laminate pass that says that you're at the press. But there's no such like real thing as a press pass.
Is she going to make her own press pass?
And anyone that's in here that's saying that I'm not in the media, or I'm not a blogger, or I'm not a journalist, or I'm not a reporter, just go kick rocks. have fun somewhere else. I can make my own. A lot of independent journalists actually make their own press passes.
But you're not a journalist. She always gives herself away, doesn't she? Well, I mean, I should, Frank. I should make my own press pass, and I think I'm able to leave the country and come back into the country now that I'm double vaccinated. So, I might be able to. I believe Sky News has a vacancy at the moment. I don't want to work for Sky News. I should do, eh?
Sorry, Arthur, or whatever. You don't even think I'm pressed. You know what? You're gonna go by.
She does not like anyone disagreeing with her.
You made your own press pass? Yeah, that's probably what I'll do.
So that's it. That's all that she's got on there. So thank you, Lava Girl. Oh, wait on. Oh, no.
Yes, I can go with press.
Oh, well, no, there's a couple more. I just refreshed it. All right, let's look at this one. She's now going to interview an ex-member.
It's only scheduled for like 4 days. Pre-trial hearing on November 18th. I'm not going to that. Okay, so I have to go, but I was going to tell you one last thing.
Yeah, hurry up. Hello, Reefers. What was that one last thing she was going to tell us? Oh.
That was part of the abuse cycle. That has left the abuse cycle and is now advocating to stop the abuse. So a man that perpetuated the abuse, that grew up in the abuse, and has now broken the cycle and is now looking to stop the abuse. I spoke with him on the phone today, and he freely admitted to me the abuse that he was a part of and what he was involved in and what he's doing now to try to stop the cycle and to stop what's happening and to stop the silence in this cult. And I want to introduce him because I think listening to him and helping will help a lot of people understand how the guys in this cult end up with these perverse ideals. And I will 100% all day long speak to a guy from this cult that admits what they've done. I will not speak to a cult member or a former cult member that will not acknowledge that as a man, they probably committed something. So it's just a fact of this cult that is so prevalent. So when a man is forthright with me and says, yes, I did do this, yes, I did do that, but I'm ashamed of that, that to me is better than someone saying, I never did that. That didn't happen. And all the men I've talked to, literally, all the
No way. Oh, dear me.
All of them have been deep regret. Horrible regret. Well, you can't say whether or not someone's chauvinistic or not. Like, you can't expect someone to open that culture and not have some of it left over. I think you're trying to expect someone to be normal when they didn't grow up normal. You're expecting someone to not to fit into a category of progressive when that's not how they were raised. So they're going to be who they are, and they're going to do their best, and you're going to, you can listen to them, and you don't have to like them, you don't have to agree with them, but hell, I don't agree with half of the crap that these people believe, but I'm not ever disrespectful to them, because it's their story to tell, and if we want to stop this, we have to be empathetic to the systemic abuse that's happening. And you can't stop it if people aren't willing to stop it. And those that have committed it have to be willing and free to open up and say things without being condemned and annihilated. You know, you can only actually allow people growth if you realize the steps it takes for them to get there. And every single step is one step forward. But these people are coming from horrific abuse. You can't expect someone to be hunky-dory and a feminist out of nowhere. It's not how it works. It would be like expecting Jill Duggar to not be completely LGBTQ supportive. It just doesn't happen that fast. It doesn't work like that. They have a long way to go.
Hello, Liz. How are you? Yeah, we're catching some. Got a few people that we haven't seen for a while.
They are brainwashed. But being cruel to them doesn't help anything. And we're not talking about Christians in this. We're talking about this cult. Okay? This cult. We're not talking about if you're a Methodist or if you're a Lutheran. It's literally this cult. All right. I gotta go there.
All right, so she did go. All right. So what was that? As I said, I didn't show you the worst of it. I sort of showed you the better bits, but it's very concerning, the stuff that she talks about. In my opinion. So we've had a big day today with the settlement of Barilaro, Bruz, and Shanks. Let's look at Shanks's new, just before we finish for the night. Let's look at Shanks's new video because it's I know we just, well, I was going to say yes, we do just. Well, we need Rick. Yes, we need Rick to come back. Yeah, some people go and come and go. He's still the channel manager, so hear from him on the very rare occasions. So KJ talks about a haircut. I actually need a haircut. My hair is actually starting to twirl. No, that was the thing planned to create. It was a very hard one to put into a category. She was talking about minor children. She was talking about SA. She was implying that the people of the cult were all, were groomed, and it was not pleasant. All right, so to finish up tonight, we're going to look at Friendly Jordies. So this is really interesting because this video was released a couple of hours after the announcement of the settlement came out. And you'll see why. My hair sort of grew overnight. Yeah, well, it has something to do with being in lockdown, short order cook. And I'm waiting for the queues to die down at my local hairdresser. They're still oh, you know how to flatter somebody, don't you, Cal? You got Oh dear. No, it's great. Thank you. I do enjoy all the encouragement. I do have those bad days, but changing the mindset is really important. That's why I love you all, because this is a really good community that we've got. But anyway, it's funny. I'm thinking I should end the stream. I'm just becoming wide awake because the last few nights I've been up half the night. You love the curls? I sometimes do grow my hair, but it gets really thick, and that's the problem. And that's all natural too. I do nothing to it. It's like I got out the shower, towel dried it. This is what comes it. You have your moments. Yeah, we all have our moments, don't we? All right. So to finish up tonight, we're going to watch this Friendly Jordies video. As I said, it dropped a couple of hours after the announcement of the settlement with Bruz, and Bruz does get a mention in it, which I thought was interesting. So this will finish off our stream tonight. Thank you all for watching, and I will. Well, it's going to be strange going to bed at night as opposed to the morning, but I will try. Actually, I might do some of my uni work, but anyway. So here we go.
Welcome back to part 123 of the New South Wales Terror Police being too stupid to pin a comedian.
Too stupid to pin a comedian. So make sure you also go to Friendly Jordies page, hit like and subscribe, and yeah.
Leave off. So hard to keep track of the incompetence. Oh, that's right. After failing to put a suppression order on me and failing to charge me for contempt, the New South Wales Police had another go, serving me an application for a suppression order.
So remember, they did that suppression order. And we already have Rufus. That's good.
That had more typos.
Actually, Rufus, I may need to contact you via Facebook too. I got a couple of issues with some of my recording stuff. So my teacher told me that if I had time, it might be better to start again, because apparently I've stuffed up some of the settings. So oh, but that's okay. It's all right.
Say written by a coked-up man with Parkinson's on a broken typewriter, maybe? Actually, wait. I should apologise to the true detectives at the Fixated Persons Unit for that joke. Sorry for, as you put it, being so derogatory.
Derogatory. Derogatory. Yeah, I'll shoot you a message. That's funny how they couldn't spell derogatory.
Be arrested, but anyway.
I wonder whether I could get that document for one of my law assignments next year, and as to how not to write legal documents.
Be so derogatory. I really don't want to be arrested, but anyway. If you want to catch up with all the details of that suppression order, you can watch that video here on my YouTube channel. When that order went...
Remember YouTube Chanel? Because that's how they spelled channel.
When that order went to court, it's safe to say that it didn't go how the Three Stooges expected. The first thing the magistrate noticed was the spelling on the application. Not a great start if you're trying to make an unprecedented legal argument as to why someone should go to jail for jokes. Failing to spell disseminate.
Disseminate. Maybe I now have to refer to the fact that I have a YouTube Chanel, hey?
Not a great start if you're trying to make an unprecedented legal argument as to why someone should go to jail for jokes. Failing to spell disseminate. And it was unprecedented. The magistrate, who certainly, and rightfully so, is not a fan of mine, she pointed out how she'd never seen an application like that one in...
I've never seen an application like this before. in court. And it's interesting how he said that she's not a fan of his because she was very critical of him, actually. She doesn't think he's funny. But yet, I've never seen an application like this.
So is not a fan of mine. She pointed out how she'd never seen an application like that one in the court system ever before. But that's just the nature of the fixated persons unit. Shoot first, then get asked by the courts, who the hell gave you the gun later? And again, the cops pulled another extremely unethical surprise, claiming that their application for a suppression order was also an application to find me in contempt, which it wasn't. But the claim was just another attempt to deprive me of preparation.
So they tried to do him for contempt as well, but didn't tell him they were trying to do him for contempt.
Again, because we have strong courts, the cops were slapped down for that trick too. I've got to say, I am glad Australia's an isolated country. Can you imagine if we actually had terror threats and this guy was in charge of stopping them? Okay, everyone, where's Sal? He won't detonate the bomb because it's attached to his body.
I know he doesn't need a haircut. That's McQueen, isn't it?
He won't detonate the bomb because it's attached to his body. If you want to kill us, mate, you're gonna have to kill yourself. Chess, mate. In the end, the application went about as well as the rest of Christo, frankly, an illegal, incompetent, petty, politically motivated, vindictive exercise that ultimately proved worse than futile. I'd love to see the fixated persons unit try and spell all of those words, by the way. Fixated.
Try and spell fixated.
The rest of Christo, frankly, an illegal, incompetent, petty, politically motivated, vindictive exercise that ultimately proved worse than futile. Love to see the fixated persons unit try and spell all of those words, by the way. Fixated. The magistrate tried to glean one legitimate reason for the application from the cops for about 2 hours. But essentially, all the cops would argue was, Friendly Jordies is making videos that are mean to the cops, and that'll somehow interfere with civilian witnesses. Long as making. Friendly Jordies is making videos.
So this is what they said. As on Wednesday, police prosecutor said that the videos about Mr. Lanka could potentially influence civilian witnesses if they remain online. He said police initially applied for one video to be removed. However, Mr. Shanks published a second video on Tuesday night, which named and criticised the police officer in Mr. Lanka's arrest. The video accrued 250,000 views in 15 hours. And that's not to say, that doesn't include the fact that we viewed it here and we probably shared it around the world. You know, it's probably been shared everywhere.
Fixated. The magistrate tried to glean one legitimate reason for the application from the cops for about 2 hours. But essentially, all the cops would argue was, Friendly Jordies is making videos that are mean to the cops, and that'll somehow interfere with civilian witnesses. Along with making some pretty funny calls about how my content is absolute gibberish, which... But the magistrate essentially told the cops, how about you toughen up and come back next week with a coherent application if you want to try again. Well, the cops seem to finally be learning from their f***ups because they didn't come back. They dropped the contempt suppression order applications and were to pay $22,000 worth of costs for Christo and I. Divided equally, of course. $1,000 worth of costs for Christo and I.
Divided equally. And don't forget, they were actually there for Christo, but Shanks got dragged into it.
Divided equally, of course. We've got to admit, I am in two minds about it, because one, idiots, wasting your money. But two, that is a disgusting amount of money. Tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars wasted on an application that anyone with half a brain knew that wasn't going to fly, which really got me thinking, like in the arrest with Christo, how on earth did an application so political, so poorly written, so unprecedented come about? Well, thanks to a parliamentary hearing where the commissioners of the New South Wales Police were questioned by Gun Labor MLC Adam Searle, we now know.
Okay, so to be very clear, this didn't also come from the Fixated Persons Unit. This was the Prosecutions Unit on a frolic of its own, was it?
Yeah, this.
Well, no, it's the prosecutor who made that evidence, who was acting on behalf of a member of members of the Fixated Persons Unit.
Wow.
Okay. Without naming the individual, can you? What sort of rank should these people be at in order to take these actions?
I'll let the officer constable allow the persons who were an informant in accordance with the law.
So essentially, anybody could do it. Is what he's saying.
In this instance, it was the detective senior constable and the detective sergeant. Very much in this matter.
So we already know who they were.
For an informant in accordance with the law. In this instance, it was the detective senior constable and the detective sergeant. Very much in this matter.
Did you hear that? The cops wasted countless taxpayer dollars, countless hours of my time, countless hours of the lawyer's time on an application due to fail from the start, completely on the whim of the detective sergeant.
So in this instance, there is a detective senior constable and a detective senior sergeant that are involved in the matter. Wow.
Application due to fail from the start, completely on the whim of the detective sergeant and detective senior constable within the Fixated Persons Unit. I wonder if it's the same detective sergeant and detective senior constable that I criticised in the very videos that the application was seeking to remove. Sure. Not.
Surely, yes.
I wonder if it's the same detective sergeant and detective senior constable that I criticised in the very videos that the application was seeking to remove. Surely not. If it was Detective Sergeant Matthew McQueen seeking the application, it would not only be tantamount to an abusive process, but specifically it would be him using his position of power to take down my videos purely to cover up his botched arrest and protect his public image. Can we put him in jail yet? I don't abuse process. Hold him in contempt. I mean, the magistrate pretty much said the application amounted to the police being thin-skinned, and now we know it came
So it says, Ms. Millage said that those involved in the justice system must be more resilient than a regular person, and a bruising such as the one police received in the video should be warded off a duck's back. So she's told them to toughen up, Buttercup.
his public image. Can we put him in jail yet? I don't abuse process. Hold him in contempt. I mean, the magistrate pretty much said the application amounted to the police being thin-skinned, and now we know it came directly from the Fixated Persons Unit. But what else would you expect from the unit that, this is true, has only investigated 214 people since its inception in 2017?
Isn't that quite scary? Only 217 people. So it says, providing the referral criteria is met, the Fixated Persons Investigation Unit will investigate all range of threat levels from low to medium high. The threat level often cannot be determined at the outset of the referral and may require varying degrees of investigation in order to establish the seriousness of the threat. Since the FPIU commenced operations in 2017, it has investigated 214 individuals. Of these, 33 were aggravated fixated with a minister or member of parliament, approximately 15% of 214. A further 35 involved grievous fixating with other public office holders, and some, I can't see what that is. Individuals have been charged with a total of 475 charges raised. Is that 38, I think?
50% of which were politically...
Sorry, 88 individuals have been charged.
...directed investigations. In that, the unit's targets were people fixated on politicians and public office holders. So no wonder the idiots thought they could abuse the courts to protect their egos from criticism. It's pretty much the unit's fucking charter to arrest people over mild political criticism. Oh, and by the way, just in case you already didn't think the unit was a cancer on democracy and the taxpayer, you know how many people the Fixated Persons Unit in their entire existence have actually charged? 88. Averaging 22 people a year. So 11 people a year charged that aren't political referrals. What? New South Wales Police, one of the largest police forces in the world, couldn't possibly deal with 11 more minor stalking charges a year. They need a terror unit for that? Where's the justification for this unit to exist? They're essentially not charging anyone, and not for a lack of trying. Christo demonstrated how low their standards are, and
Yeah, there wasn't a warrant, was there? I believe there wasn't a warrant for their arrest. It's a shame it's having to drag out so long for next year.
even when they do get a charge up, they pull every dirty trick in the book, but still end up wasting more of your money. Just fire McQueen. Abolish the unit. It's a complete and utter waste. But these stats were just the tip of the iceberg of the information gathered by Adam Searle and David Shoebridge at Budget Estimates. The estimates were quite like Detective Sergeant Matthew McQueen when he opened his mouth arresting Christo. In that, so much shit came out. We found out that the police wanted...
He's not going to be happy, is he? Did the dog... I don't know if the dog pressed charges, but the dog should.
And we failed to follow correct procedure to even have the Fixated Persons Unit arrest Christo, but the Fixated Persons Unit didn't even have a warrant for his arrest.
Was there a warrant for Mr. Lanker's arrest?
No.
After that, they were then asked if I was still under investigation.
Does he remain under investigation by the New South Wales Police Force?
That matter has yet to be determined, so don't know of an active investigation, but we are waiting on advice in relation to sufficiency.
So they're saying that they're still getting material against Shanks. So
material has been gathered.
What crimes do you think he might have committed?
Well, the members of the lawyers will provide some advice on that. It would be in the realm of intimidation. Crimes.
Talk about intimidation.
talk about... Wow. No wonder the budget estimates is questioning about the Fixated Persons Unit. I wonder whether they're going to try and explain that Fixated Persons Unit's a waste of time.
How long do I have to labour under the possibility that this gun-toting chick might burst into my house at any moment and arrest me because one of my jokes punched down? Your words are no match for my sticks and stones. Stop punching down! If you're gonna do it, just arrest me already. I'm sick of my games. I'm sorry, but I think having a terror unit investigate you for over a year for calling a politician a nickname that very politician calls himself is a little more intimidating than calling a politician a nickname that very politician calls himself.
Remember, Bruz called himself Southport Barilaro.
But at the very least, these questions are making the cops squirm. They know they've screwed up. I'm watching this hearing, and it's kind of like watching my friend K-Hole in that both are such pathetic and sad sights to behold. Both the New South Wales Police and my K-Holing friend almost solicited sympathy from me. Until I thought, hang on, like my K-Holing friend, I warned the cops every step of the way. Maybe you shouldn't be wasting your life on a legal, self-serving, degenerate escapade. And maybe if you do that, there's going to be consequences. And now when it comes time for the police to be accountable to Parliament, the police are in the corner of the room having an out-of-body experience. Even though I'm the Commissioner of the Police and the arrest of Christo Lanker has been the most high-profile political event/arrest of my career, I know nothing about it, but I'm clumsily led on that I actually know quite a bit about it in my attempt to absolve myself of any responsibility.
He's going after the police commissioner. Well, I don't know how that's going to end. What do you reckon?
The New South Wales police are my body, but I am out of my body right now, so nothing is my fault. It's true. At the start, Fuller claimed he wasn't across the issue and directed all comments pertaining to the arrest to Assistant Commissioner Walton, which meant Walton was over forced to admit shit like this.
So what is the crime that Mr. Lankas is supposed to have committed? What are the charges against him presently?
Intimidation.
Intimidation. Oh, I know it's far from over. Is today not the last? I'm not sure, Sky. I'm not sure, but that would explain why she's doing all those. She's been talking really weirdly and on her Duggar fixation. It would explain all of that, actually. The video is far from over. You're right.
The Lankas is supposed to have intimidated Mr. John Barilaro.
Yes.
Have you met Mr. Lanka?
No.
Okay. It seems to me to be a fairly far-fetched proposition that Mr. Lanka, who's a 21-year-old young man, would.
Who's 65 kilos ringing wet.
I acknowledge that would be found in any way to have intimidated Mr. Barilaro, a man of, shall we say, robust and firm opinions. What evidence do you have about that intimidation? Is it just the videos that are in the public domain?
The intimidation elements move beyond the physical capability. They move into mental harm.
There was no physical intimidation.
So it's mental harm. So no physical intimidation. Gets more and more bizarre, doesn't it?
Which is quite amazing because that means McQueen and his friends don't have a leg to stand on when they try to explain why they didn't have a warrant when they arrested Christo. But it also means that the entire prosecution of Christo is based on my videos full stop. The charade about Christo intimidating John by bumping into him outside Parliament has stopped. The senior police in this hearing have all admitted that the charges stem purely from the content on this channel. You get the logic? Christo intimidated John because John watched my videos. I know Shooters NLC Rob Borsak made the joke of thought crimes.
Thought crimes.
The fixated persons unit is so dystopian that thought crimes make a little more sense than what they're actually going off.
Yeah. So approach and both times that Christo approached him is recorded, so it's clearly we know exactly what happened. Thought crimes. So does that mean you can't think about them? You can't think about bruz?
They arrested Christo because the Deputy Premier thought Christo might have committed thought crimes. Actually, that's too clear-cut. As the police admitted, they didn't...
So it says, okay, so did the fixated police units proceed on the basis of any expert psychological or psychiatric evidence on this matter? No. So the police made their own independent assessment of the matters. Yes.
Get any psychiatric or psychological analysis of Barilaro to assess whether he was actually intimidated. So the FPU arrested Christo because they thought the Deputy Premier thought Christo might have committed thought crimes. It's all come out. This entire ordeal is a group of crooks abusing the public service, using the police, who should be independent, to destroy speech that threatens their grasp on power. Eventually, all of these concessions got too much for Fuller to handle, and he had to jump in with coincidentally the exact same line of propaganda his ex-neighbour ScoMo has been spewing out the past few months, at the same time managing to completely contradict his assertions of indifference to the arrest.
The sort of stuff that Mr. Walton talks about online, and kids committing suicide, adults committing suicide because of online bullying and harassment, is that Parliament is going to have to get the grasp on what standard do you want us to enforce more than how we're dealing with it, sir, out of respect.
Well,
So how do we get from bruz to children though? Because bruz is an adult.
Commissioner, this is in fact my question. Without that legislative apparatus, the police here have had to, they've made a decision, they formed a judgment, and they formed a judgment about where robust public criticism of a government minister has crossed the line. It's a matter for the court, but that's the judgment the police have made. Upon what basis and on what policy has the police filled in those gaps?
Yeah, and I think Mr. Walton has explained that without having the brief in front of us. But the matter stood before.
But why doesn't he have the brief in front of him?
I understand that.
And what happens is either we will lose and I'll have a black eye, and then I'll come to government and say, you either have to change the legislation if you want us to protect our kids online, if you want us to protect even our leaders online.
Or maybe you don't prosecute journalists.
I think David Shoebridge summed up Fuller's borderline psychotic argument best in this tweet. Commissioner Fuller arguing that the prosecution of Christo Lanka is their only possible response to online bullying and harassment and is needed to prevent young people from the risk of suicide.
How do you get that?
For one, I think it's quite funny that the New South Wales Police Commissioner is equating Barilara's ability to handle criticism with that of a child, but I also think that there's something completely disgusting and sinister with these extremely powerful men hiding behind children committing suicide to justify political violence against critics. And it's nothing more than that. There's no legitimate concern for children. Was there any concern or follow-up from the New South Wales Police for Christo's younger brother, who out of nowhere had his mum violently assaulted just outside his room and his older brother in handcuffs driven away by unidentified men?
Now, that is a very good question. Where was the follow-up on that?
Nothing. Has there been any investment in stopping suicide, even within the New South Wales Police, where the higher-ups have a shocking record of even protecting their own? Not that I'm aware of. If you look into it, the tactic of blaming social media for youth suicides becomes even more absurd as the rate of suicide for people under 18, as tragic as it is, hasn't really changed since the advent of social media. And in fact, in Australia, the suicide rate for people of all ages has decreased since the 90s. Unlike in pockets of rural Australia, where since Fuller's protected person and the rest of the Nats have been in power, the suicide rate has increased by 59%.
See how he didn't call him by his name, he called protected person? Very clever.
But careful, pointing that out like we did might get you arrested by the unit ostensibly there to stop suicide. For Fuller to pretend that the Fixated Persons Unit exists to protect kids from cyberbullying is one of his most disgusting and disingenuous web of lies that the man has ever spun, and this is from a man who built a career on disgusting and disingenuous lies. But it's part of a broader lie being sold to the Australian public by Scotty from marketing, that we need to shut down free speech to protect the children. But it's entirely about protecting crooked politicians. We have the stats. We know that 50% of the targets of the Fixated Persons Unit were purely political. We also know that John Barilaro isn't a f***ing child getting cyberbullied, and we now know that the police only have targeted friendly jordies because of our videos.
There you go. Hey, he's pretty worked up, isn't he?
I never thought in Australia I would be targeted by our local police force for videos. You tried to charge me for contempt of court. You failed. You failed because I don't have contempt for the courts. Like the people of New South Wales, my contempt is unreservedly directed at you. Like and subscribe.
My contempt is reserved at you. Yeah, he's very intelligent. The way that he's worded that's very intelligent. So on that note, so thank you for joining me. I'll be on tomorrow, and we'll see what we've got to discuss tomorrow. But yeah, I'll have to find out, see when that date is, but I think that date is coming up. And doesn't she have deposition with Chrisley in a few days' time too, on her birthday or something? So anyway. All right. So thank you. As I said, thank you for joining me, and I will catch you again later. Rufus, I will hit you probably sometime tomorrow. I'll hit your DM. I'll hit you up in Facebook to have a chat about how I can fix it. Or maybe I just send you what I've got and see whether you can fix it. You can fix it for me. Yeah. All right. I'll catch you all later. And bye for now.